got a huge discussion to make up on this one, and more in particular for the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm excited for this series because there's going to be a lot of physicality. There's going to be a lot of just offensive shots, but it's mostly going to be who's got the upper hand at the end of this series. So joining me, he's believing in those Mavericks, knows all about it in Dallas. Let's bring him on, Mo Murphy. Well, Mo, here we go. We got Dallas and we got Boston. I will say this because the Mavericks have always been such an interesting organization to start with. We'll start there because, the last time the championship in 2011, it was just surreal. The fact that they beat a loaded Miami roster to come all the way to this point with Luka, with Kyrie, with Jason Kidd and PJ Washington and you name it. How's this got to feel right now for Mavericks fans all over? Because, this is something else. I love what this roster's done. I think they've clicked at the right time. How have you evaluated covering this team as long as you have?
It's definitely special. The Mavericks being in the NBA Finals. Last time they've been was 2011. So what is that? 13 years. It's been 13 years since the last championship appearance. Texas Rangers, just won the World Series last season. So they're the defending champs. So the vibes are high in Dallas. At this point, Mavericks playing for a NBA championship. The only thing that you could do better in the Dallas area is the Stars win the Stanley Cup and somehow, some way the Cowboys finally reach the Super Bowl. We know that's not going to happen. So for now, they might have 3 teams that could hoist up a championship trophy within a calendar year. That's the vibes. That's what people are thinking about. The Dallas Stars play tonight. The Dallas Stars are about to play right now. So the possibility of in a calendar year, 3 of your 4 major market sports teams winning a championship is something that you can feel it in the air in Dallas and the Fort Worth area and surrounding areas. Everybody feel it. Everybody wearing their Mavericks gear everywhere. The gym, the park, the basketball court, in Walmart, it doesn't matter. Mavs gear is out everywhere in all surrounding areas. So you could definitely tell it's a different feeling.
Well, and especially too, you've also got the Arlington Renegades as well that they've been playing, very well in the UFL. And so there's so much happening all around in the Dallas, the Fort Worth, the Arlington area. Texas is known to go big and go home. So the thing about the Mavericks, I just find very fascinating and intriguing is because the fact that, first of all, following this team for as long as you have, and even from when watching basketball myself, you come from an era where Dirk Nowitzki gave everything he could to this organization. And then, of course, the billionaire Mark Cuban, he's known for, we got to make a deal, And so now you're at this point, Luka Dončić. And we know this was going to be now the next pillar moving forward. And how have you basically seen this all kind of wrap with Luka? Because I think a lot of the question is will he ever win a championship? Will he get over that hump? Because at this point, he's represented in the final before Trae Young, before Zion, before a lot of these youngsters. How have you really evaluated Luka Dončić to this point where now he's drinking this whole moment in?
I think now Luka's where he's supposed to be. He's only been in the league, 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. This is the end of his 6th year. LeBron didn't win his first championship till year 7. Michael Jordan didn't win his first championship till year 7. A lot of the all-time greats, not everybody walked in the league and won a championship as a rookie like Magic Johnson. Not everybody won one early, and some of the players that won early never won again. So when you get a superstar talent like Luka, you draft him. Well, you trade for him on draft day. You get him. You got to build around him. The kid walks into the league at 18, 19 years old. So you got to develop him. You got to allow him to become into his own. The thing is, Luka hit the ground running. Luka was pretty much, you saw after his rookie year, he was one of those, after his rookie year, he's been first team all NBA every year since then. So he's hit the ground running. This dude has a Hall of Fame resume before he's even won or competed for a championship. He is now with a Hall of Fame resume, about to compete for a championship and possibly win one. But these things take time. But the ring culture conversation has we've rushed the process, and they almost treat professional sports like we demand from college athletes. Like, you got 3 years to get this thing right, or 4 years at the max. Maybe if you're a fifth year senior, you got 5 years to win a championship, or else your window's closed and you'll no longer play the sport. And it's people are almost treating that professional sports the same way. And Luka's probably going to play 15, 17, 18 years. But because he hasn't played for a championship yet, he hadn't reached the finals until yet. It's oh man, when is this dude gonna win one? Some of the all-time greats, it takes time. These things take time. He hits his stride. You build the perfect team around him. You find the right coach. Getting Kyrie in the middle of the season doesn't mean it doesn't turn you into a championship contender. You found that out last year. So now Kyrie, they had a whole season and a half now, a whole year and a half to mesh. They've created a relationship. This is like a family environment now. You could tell they love each other. They're brothers. You add Gafford. So it's a process to build an organization to try and win a championship. It doesn't happen overnight, but the millions of sports fans don't understand that. They see Luka's first team All-NBA. After that second year, people thought he was ready to win a championship. And even if he was, it's not that easy. And only one team wins a championship. But because of the ring culture conversation, that they wanted the process of where Luka is fine right now. He is about to enter his prime. He is now about to enter the best years of his career for the next 5 to 7 years. This is going to be his Hall of Fame stretch. His first 5 years already are Hall of Fame worthy, but this is going to be his all-time great stretch over the next 5 to 7 years. So I say give it time. He's competing for a championship now. If the Dallas Mavericks win, he has one under his belt. But of course, the pressure is going to be can he win 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7? And it's just take it 1 year at a time. Allow Luka to play in the finals and have a finals appearance. This is a Boston Celtics team that's been there before. So it's that part frustrates me. It gets, and it's not just about Luka. They do it to all the young stars. Anthony Edwards about to get that same treatment after being in the Western Conference Finals this year. Anything short of a finals appearance is going to be a failure, and they're going to start talking about when is it time for him to win a championship. So they do this to every young star that comes in and is all NBA in his first 2 or 3 years.
Love it, man. And and like I said, when Luka hit the ground running, I think what's so fascinating to me was the fact that he got the experience as he did in Latvia, where at 15 years old, where you're facing against guys that were in their mid-30s, if not in their 40s, and you're building that now. And we'll get to that on the tail end, but it's just most of these players, international and domestic, they're built differently because it's they have a different set of just their type of discipline. And at the same time, how they really tack that on. Most of our domestic stars, we know, you go through high school, you go through a collegiate program, and you go through potentially tournament after tournament. Then you get into the NBA, and I know it's mixed with swag, it's mixed with a culture, it's mixed with a lot of those things. But then you bring this energy and vibe. And I used to love that. When we were in the eras of the 90s, 2000s, there was always 2 stars. It wasn't just one in particular, even though we praised a lot for them. But there were always that 2 that just set the culture. So to this discussion, going off of, and unfortunately now Rick Carlisle, he's packing his bags, he's out, and coached this team in the past. Now is Jason Kidd. What I love about this is because Kidd was in this particular situation with Dallas. I feel like this is so much of just a deja vu for him because of the fact he won the title with this team. Now he's about to potentially try to win a title coaching this team. What has been your thoughts with Jason Kidd on this point?
Right at this point, I love Jason Kidd. And I don't kill coaches. I'm gonna put that so. But there was a point in time, even throughout the season, it's man, is there a slight upgrade over Jason Kidd? He's good, but I think we need a little bit better to get over the hump and take Luka Dončić to be able to win the championship. He shut everybody up. Kyrie Irving, all those guys. So Jason Kidd, though, you know what? And you said something you said is very familiar. He experienced this as a player. He played with Dirk when they won, what you pointed out. But think about it. We were killing Dirk. Dirk had already been to a finals, hadn't won a championship yet. Dirk was one of the greatest power forwards we had ever seen. His career seemed like it was starting to come to a wind down, and he was going to be one of those players. that was not gonna, be able to win a championship during his NBA career. And then he gets to the finals again in 2011, and it seemed like the treatment was, this is the Heatles. That's who you're playing, the big three, not one, not two, not three. So, like, you don't give them a chance. But then at the same time, you're telling Dirk, like, man, if he doesn't win this, like, this could affect his legacy. He's not going to have a championship. He's going to be 0-2 in finals appearances, losing to, like, the Miami Heat both times, Dwayne Wade in 2006, and then Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh, and company in 2011 had they lost. Like, so the narrative would have been like, he could get there. He's an all-time great, but he can't win the whole thing. And so Jason Kidd played on that team and understood what it was. And when they got there and won the championship, like, I think it's the same type of vibe, same type of environment, same type of atmosphere and feeling. Just Jason Kidd is now at the throne of the head coach position as opposed to being the point guard.
Yeah, and it is interesting. And again, I love it when you got former players that become coaches. And sometimes it either works one of two ways. They do pan out or they don't. But usually a lot of times, like in this particular instance, Jason Kidd was the point. He was the guy that basically controlled, started things up, and began to basically form that kind of offense. You started to open up spots in the perimeter. You started to open up spots in the wings. So you started to really expand and then go in for that attack. That was what it was, preparation from the start. So I just think, and I know it's going to be meaningful for Jason Kidd as a coach, for Luka Dončić being the star player, the next guy over that, Dirk passed the torch in Dallas, and now he's the star. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it, but we know it in the back of our minds. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie won a title with LeBron. And so at this point, Kyrie played with Boston. Things did not work out at that point because then Boston, in comes Jason Tatum, in comes Jaylen Brown. They find their future stars. Right. And initially said, Kyrie, we like you, but you're not needed in this organization anymore. So goes Kyrie to Brooklyn, then travels a lot. He became the traveler. I feel like there's something that is so meaningful about Kyrie because he's already won a title. He's had a lot of this experience, but the narrative is, and like for most players, is like, well, you can't win a championship without LeBron. Well, here we are with Kyrie, with Luka. What in watching with what Kyrie has done, I felt like we know the whole personal narrative. We know a lot of the adversities he's had to overcome, but I felt like as maturity grows, as we start to grow as a player and as a person, I think Kyrie has finally hit to where he is meant for this moment. Is it right for me to say that I feel like this is the moment Kyrie is about to just backlash this on a lot of teams, from Boston, from the league, and even from LeBron? Your thoughts?
I don't think the LeBron aspect matters so much. Like, I know when Kyrie won with LeBron, it wasn't that he hated LeBron. He didn't but he felt like everything was so Bron-centric, even from like a standpoint like that he didn't get the credit he deserved. And he's like, he rightfully so, he hit the shot of all shots. Like, that is a historic shot that's going to be shown for generations upon generations. That shot is going to pop back up in the finals commercial coming up in a week like that. So that's how important he was, and he wasn't feeling the importance. And so he wanted to do it on his own. He was young. And so I'm about to enter my prime. I think I could carry a team. Come to find out, it's a lot harder. It's a bigger burden. And that's okay. Like, you think you can do something, you don't ultimately succeed. That's fine. But because it was Kyrie Irving and he left what people consider was such a great position, being alongside, being Robin to LeBron's Batman, and people made it like it was a personal thing. And those dudes have had love for each other all the time. But even now, like, yes, I think, and I know Kyrie does not want to talk about it. He hasn't talked about it much. He didn't talk about it much last night. And every reporter was like, we know you don't want to talk about it, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we don't ask. And we will accept whatever answer you give us, but we have to do our job. Our bosses have to know that we tried to talk about what it means to go back to Boston and play against the Boston Celtics and ultimately have an opportunity to win a championship. And I think, like, Kyrie will be able to kill a lot of noise. But one thing you said was maturity. And so we go through life, but we hold athletes to different standards. So Kyrie's what, like 31, 32, yep. 31? Mm-hmm. So Kyrie probably, like, men just figure it out. Like in our 30s is when we start to thrive because it took us our whole 20s to figure it out. So our 30s and on is where we really start to thrive, and they're dead in the middle of our careers and doing absolutely amazing, and new cars and brand new houses and all that stuff. 35, 36. But like when you're an athlete, if you don't have it figured out by 23, 24, 25, you might not be in the league. Like that's how people treat it. There might not be a place for you. And so it took Kyrie some time to mature, find the right situation. He found the right situation and you see it. And so from a basketball, a life standpoint, and I love Kyrie. Like I think Kyrie's a good dude, you know, whatever. Like you can agree or disagree with any man's personal opinions. That's your personal opinion, not mine. So it doesn't matter. But I like Kyrie. I think he's a good dude. And so now he's at the full. I think this is just the best version of Kyrie Irving, period. Like in life. I think this is the best. I think he feels this is the best of him mentally, physically, and then the basketball player. Kyrie is a jack of all trades. You need him to play defense, he'll do that. You want him to go score 30, he'll do that. You want him to give you 10 assists, 15 points, and guard your best guard on defense, he'll do that. Like he's willing to do whatever it takes to win games, and that's maturity. That's called being a leader. That's also called, like, it's self-reflection. He's had plenty of self-reflection, and now he's in a situation where he's happy. Everything's better when you're winning games on top of that, and now he's competing for a championship. So, I mean, this could be essentially a big FU to everybody that had everything to say about Kyrie since he left. And I think, you know, if they win the championship, like I think you'll catch a little bit of that. He won't flat out say it, but you'll catch the vibes, the attitude, the demeanor, the way he carry himself. It's a little bit, I told y'all, like, yeah, y'all had a lot to say over a couple years, and that's cool. But I'm back. I'm here. I won a championship, and y'all going to have to deal with me next year as the defending champ alongside Luka Dončić and this Dallas Mavericks team. So, yeah, I do think it means something to Kyrie to beat Boston. Like, not just get his second championship and without LeBron and post all the turmoil or whatever happened in his life, but also the fact that it's against the Celtics. Like, I beat the true team that was the downfall of the couple years for Kyrie Irving. It seemed like it started in Boston. So, yeah, I think it'd be even more special. Like, you value things. Winning a championship is absolutely amazing, but it's got to be even better to beat your former team. That absolutely. The crowd hates you too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, then that's the thing is because, I mean, you name it. I mean, from the COVID protocols, from, you know, just the relationship he had with Kevin Durant, which was just odd, you know, and it didn't work out in the end for Brooklyn. And like they blew this thing up. But then eventually, I mean, I was just so curious when the time, and I'll be honest, and I'm taking this back. I initially said, because we've all watched Shark Tank, right? We've all watched Mark Cuban when he comes to making deals and all the rest of it. I was flat out saying, I'm like, Mark, I think this is the worst financial decision I think you've ever made. Now I feel like an idiot. And
but I feel like you're not by yourself. So like, don't think like, oh, it's just Jake the Snake and don't listen to Snake Sports Talk Show no more. Like, you're not by yourself, bro. You're not.
That's right. And that's the one thing is because in the end, like I love it when players prove me wrong, because in the end, it's like they prove something to me that I should have seen this inside looking out. And then in the end, it all made sense in the end. So the road now to the finals. So Dallas came in a very interesting road, because you look at the matchups they had to play. They had to play the Clippers. But the thing about that is, I mean, Kawhi's availability, we all know that. Exactly. But to face against Paul George, who we know was a great shooter, a great defender of the wing, but it was like the Clippers, they fooled me. They were fool's gold from the end of it, because I thought things were clicking, things were working well, and then all of a sudden it just didn't work. Then they go to OKC, facing a young team, Chet Holmgren and SGA. I felt like because of how young that team was, they were not quite there yet, but they got the taste. And then all the way to the point where you face Minnesota. I felt like a lot of that energy was used up in the series against Dallas, but we can admit, Ant Edwards is just different. If they could just Make it happen where it's a preview of, it's not great, it's getting better. It eventually will start to thrive. I felt like Dallas's road to the final is something that is completely different from Boston because they've dealt with physicality, they dealt with veterans and young up-and-coming rising stars and rookies. And then in the end, it all meshed together to where Luka didn't have to be the guy to have the ball in his hands to take control. I got Kyrie shooting. I've got PJ Washington. I got Gafford. I now am trusting my team. When looking at this road, it's safe to say this is not an easy road if you're looking at an Eastern Conference team where there's not a whole lot I'm getting from it. But in the West, I got everything. What did you think of this with them now in the final, what they had to go through this road?
Yeah, I think no matter who was coming out of the West, I think we knew it was going to be a little more respectable. They were going to have the tough road. There wasn't a single, team in the West in the playoffs that you thought had an easy road. Like, okay, Denver had to come out and play the Lakers, and then they go on and they end up playing Minnesota. Like, that's your second round. Like, you get gifted for a first round being the 2 seed. You have to play LeBron and Anthony Davis and the Lakers. They were able to handle business, but still, then you have to go on. Okay, we beat them, and then we go on to have to play Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then had they have won, they would have had to play Dallas Mavericks. So, there was no easy road. Phoenix, Clippers, it doesn't matter. Wherever you won from, your next matchup was probably going to be a little tougher than previous, and it was going to just keep getting tougher. Like you said, the East was kind of a cakewalk, a lot of injured stars over there that Boston was able to avoid. Not their fault, though, but it's not Boston's fault. Boston can't help that Jimmy Butler wasn't healthy, can't help that Tyrese Halliburton ended up getting hurt. They can't help that Donovan Mitchell got hurt. That's not none of their fault, but it's still, for context, they haven't had a road. So you would say, Boston's probably more, they're probably more fresh, more healthy. Dallas a little bit beat up, but Dallas gets a week off anyway. So now, even through all that, they get a week to freshen up and get ready for a vigorous, probably 6 or 7 game series of just, they're going to have to battle it out. But this road, they beat 3 of the top 4 seeds in the West in order to get there. They were the 5 seed. They had to beat 3 of the 4 seeds ahead of them. And people are like, I still don't know. They want to question it. Now, all of a sudden, because Dallas won in 5 and blew Minnesota out, now all of a sudden Minnesota's not as good as we thought, even though they beat Denver and the reigning champs, and we thought that was a tall task. So, they're still going to try and diminish it because this isn't who everybody predicted to reach the NBA Finals. Now, if it was Anthony Edwards or the Denver Nuggets, everybody's safe bets would have been in place, so they would have praised it up of how right I was. And I picked Denver and look who they had to go through, but nobody picked Dallas. So nobody wants to give Dallas 100% the credit that they would have gave Denver or Anthony Edwards had Anthony Edwards beat Luka Dončić, Kyrie, and Dallas. So the road was tough. Will you beat OKC if they were 2 years older and 2 more years together? Maybe not. But maybe so. You don't know that. That's not them being young. SGA and Luka are the same age. We talk about how young they are and how young their superstar is, but SGA is actually 8 months older than Luka. So, they're the same age, but like we talked about before, Luka hit the ground running. We think this dude has been in the league 10, 12 years. People act like Luka's 30. So, the road was as tough as you could imagine. I guess the only way it would have got tougher is if they would have played Denver instead of Minnesota. But other than that, it's as tough as it would have got in the West. And so they were able to do so. And you could say, well, Kawhi wasn't hurt or Kawhi wasn't available. He was never going to be available.
Yeah.
I could have told you 3 years ago he wouldn't have been available for this. I tell everybody, I'm taking the Clippers. They'll finally be healthy. They will never be healthy. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard will walk into the playoffs with ailments. One of them will get hurt in the playoffs. I tried telling people that, and they didn't want to hear it, so Kawhi goes down. That doesn't discredit. It was expected. We all saw it. Like you said, people sold stock on. I sold stock on the Clippers after the first year when they didn't win. I'm I'm not buying into it. They're always hurt. And every year they might do it. They're my team to come out the West. They're injured, but people use that against the Mavericks. But like I said, you beat 3 of the 4 seed. You beat 3 of the top 4 seeds in the Western Conference to get there. So the road doesn't get much harder unless you would have beat 1, 2, and 3. You not playing Denver avoided you having to beat 1, 2, and 3, and that would have been the toughest road any team would have had to take to reach the finals.
And it's very true. And, and the thing about it is, and what differs, and especially when we get to this last point is that the West just have so much competition in front of them because they got literally everything. And every team is going to get tested. How tough are you? Can you shoot, especially with being contested, getting boxed out, or especially when you're in a position where I need a pass, I need a rebound, I need a shot from either the wing or the perimeter or anywhere on that arc. I need a shot to get us in this and then control the possession in time, but not allow the opposing team to score. I feel like it didn't matter. Dallas, Minnesota, Denver, those were my 3 top physical teams that I think would have been more than capable of being a title contender. Minnesota, I think they're getting closer. They're getting better. We saw a preview, but in the end, we know with what these players are. And Denver, they're going to be a problem for the next 5 years. We know that for a fact. And then in comes Dallas. They're also another team we could never figure out until we get to this point of, oh, this is what they are. So now the time is at hand, the final. So Boston against Dallas. I will tell you, my key points about this finals and to getting your opinion on this last segment is I don't think Boston's prepared for this. And I'll be very bluntly honest because everybody, and I've been hearing it all day, I've been hearing a lot of Tatum defenders. I don't hate Tatum. I don't. But I get very critical when I'm getting an all-in or an all-out. I got to have a consistent rate where if you gave me the same amount of rebounds, maybe a little bit more, if not 2-3 points more per game that you're getting because you're keeping your foot on the gas pedal. But I think my prediction of this, if you're Boston, I got to finish this quick. I got to make this a 5-6 game series because you get that thing to 7, you're toast. Because Kyrie, 14-0 in crucial, clutch, winning moments. You do not want to have that if you're facing them in a 7-game series and it goes all the way to 7. But I think Dallas, they outmatch them physically. I think they outmatch them when it comes to when I need a bucket or I need a rebound or I need a stop. I think Dallas checks all the boxes from the size and even from contesting the bench. When previewing the finals, how do you really see this go down? Because I think Boston needs to finish this thing quick, but if you're Dallas, I'm not making this thing easy enough for the Celtics moving forward.
Yeah, the longer this series goes, the worse it gets for Boston, obviously. I'm going to tell you, it's a tall task for both teams. Like, it's not easy for Dallas. Like, this is not an easy matchup. This isn't – if Dallas won in 5 or swept Boston, I would be absolutely surprised. I'm going to tell you that now. Like, this isn't a 4 or 5 game series. I don't think either way. Man, if you want me to be honest, man, this is my 2 versus your 2. This is Luka and Kyrie versus Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Who's going to step up, show up, and win the championship? Like, Tatum and Brown have been here. Kyrie's looking for a second championship. This is Luka's first shot at getting a championship, legitimate shot by being in the finals and competing for a championship. But I like Dallas's 2 versus their 2. And in these moments, role players don't matter as much. They need to do their job and not mess this up. But this isn't on Drew Holiday or Derek White or Al Horford or Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively or Derek Jones Jr., any of them. This is on Luka and Kyrie and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And right now, I want Luka and Kyrie over Tatum and Brown. I think my 2 can show up and show out in the 7-game series more often than your 2. And the advantage that I think Dallas has, it's not hanging over their head. Luka's never came up short in the finals. He's never played in the finals. Luka didn't lose in the finals a series that he should have won. Luka didn't choke away a lead. Luka didn't look like he was about to win a championship. Boston did. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown did, and now they're back for redemption. But with redemption, people never forget. So that means there's also pressure, and I think there's more pressure on Boston than there is Dallas. I don't think Dallas has felt pressure yet. I don't think they feel the pressure. They're not playing with the pressure, and the farther they get, the less chance everybody tells you Dallas has. So they just get to play ball, have fun, and like, oh, you don't expect nothing else anyway, so watch this. And I think that matters. And so for that, I'm taking Dallas. I got the Mavericks in 6. I agree with you, though. If it does go 7, I still would take Dallas in 7. Like, I would take them to win game 7 because Kyrie, what would he want anything more than to win a game 7 in the Garden in Boston? Like, what better than to celebrate a championship in a game 7 in Boston? But I think the safest thing to do when you're talking about NBA Finals, 2 teams that really deserve, have earned their way here, and you could see win a championship, you got to close them out when you have an opportunity at home. When home games are, you got 3, they got 4. So if it's game 6 and you're up 3-2, you need to go ahead and close it out, win the championship, and just keep everything, all media, everybody in place in Dallas for the next week, all the way up, leading through the parade by winning it in 6. And so I think that's what Dallas is going to do. I think they're going to be up 3-2. They're going to walk into game 6, and I think they're going to understand we can't let this thing leave out of Dallas. We don't want to. We don't want to take that chance. We're not going to let it leave out of Dallas. All of y'all might as well get comfortable, extend your stays in the hotels, the media members and everything, because y'all about to cover us for the next week until this parade cracks. But yeah, I'm taking Dallas in 6.
Yeah, I love it, man. You got me hyped up on this NBA Finals preview, man. And like I said, at least they get a week off. So at least these guys are going to be well rested. They'll be focused. They'll be ready to roll. But man, I'm just loving with how Dallas just put all this stuff together. I mean, from the time that they end up acquiring PJ Washington and they get all these pieces and then all these up and coming guys that are starting to show up. I mean, my final thought, and while now we're here in the finals, but looking back at the NBA playoffs, I mean, we got mixtures of everything, but I think a lot of the identities were so clear. You could not miss this. Knicks you need to get Jalen Brunson a star. You do. Because if he's showing out night in, night out, give him a Robin for him to be able to conserve that energy, not be very quick to be injury prone, but the Knicks are at the very least in the right track. But then you get, Minnesota, that Anthony Edwards, I think he is primed to be the face of this league for domestic stars because we need that. I mean, I'm watching international players overtake this game from Luka to Jokic to Wemby and Giannis. Like, I'm not getting enough of these domestic stars that I know that want to get over the top. So when you look back at the playoffs, are there things that really stand out to you that you potentially preview of what next season may look like and how this honestly, I mean, I'm not saying this was bad, but I think this is much more needed improvement to make the league and yet make the playoffs much more entertaining for the future.
Yeah, so in the playoffs this year, the main thing I want to say is, man, y'all might need to prepare for some finals games in New York next year. I think the Knicks will be there. Kind of, I guess, a wild guess, but everybody's like the star. They need a star. They were missing half their team, and I think that Robin to Jalen Brunson's Batman is Julius Randle. I really do. I don't think the Knicks need to touch this roster much. Like, just make sure everybody's healthy. Bring back the pieces. Get OG back. Make sure Randall's back healthy. Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson. I like this team. I felt like New York would have had a chance, minus all those guys, to beat Boston, or at least upset them, beat them in game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals, have them shaking in their boots because of how physical they are. So I think, New York City might have a couple finals games. I think I feel safe in saying that next year. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll say that. Anthony Edwards, he does seem to be the guy, the domestic superstar you're talking about to try and be the face of the league. I do think we learned that, and then him reaching the Western Conference Finals makes it a lot easier. And I guess what you could learn is the one that we're not giving the benefit of the doubt that could be the face of the league domestically if he wins a championship is Jason Tatum. Like, I think that's what I'm waiting to see is like, okay, if Dallas does lose and Boston wins this championship, like, what is the final, like, what is the overall thought on Jason Tatum? Because he would be probably the best player he probably wins finals MVP. It could be Jaylen Brown, but I think since he won conference finals MVP, I think Tatum should be the best player on their team in this series if they want to have an opportunity to win. And so he gets his championship. He gets his finals MVP. He plays for the Boston Celtics. They're defending champs. He's a domestic star. It's easy when you win a championship and you are in Boston. The brand sells itself. So I am interested to see, like, if Boston wins, does that change who people think could be the face of the league? And do we move from like, hey, let's hold off on Anthony Edwards for a second and at least give Jason Tatum a 2 to 3 year run of being promoted as the face of the league and see what he does with it? That'll give you time. Anthony Edwards will be 25. If Celtics win, Anthony Edwards will be 25 if Tatum fails to hold the torch as face of the league after winning a championship this year, if they're able to win it. So that's one of the main things I want to see is how are we treating Jason Tatum if they win? Like, because we're talking about Anthony Edwards being the face of the league, and then we got Wemby coming up. Like, Luka, if he wins it, probably is the face of the league. You still got Jokic and Giannis and all these guys. Like, how do we value Tatum overall as our domestic superstar and being the guy to be like, this is representing the American-born players, and it's not all about the European guys coming over here, taking over, winning our MVPs and winning our championships. Like, so I think Jason Tatum could take that torch if they win it. That's something that I think I've been kind of I've been waiting for him to grasp it throughout the playoffs, take a chokehold on it and say, yeah, Tatum will be the face of the league if he wins a championship. I still don't think he's fully done that, but he has another opportunity in the series where the whole world's going to be watching to be able to do it. And I think you'll value Tatum a little differently.
Yeah, this will be really interesting in the end of the day because, yeah, I mean, like, again, I loved watching college hoops for so long, but I just feel like Adam Silver and the entirety of the league, they need to get on the same page, because in the end, I know the NIL deals, I know, like, you know, a lot of this stuff, but listen, and I've always been mentioning this because every time it's always the root of one person, John Calipari, this one and done deal don't work. You got to build these guys to where they are ready and they're prepared. So that's my hope of it. I think if you could do that and you get these players, because every time a player comes in, I don't know about them until 4 or 5 years in the league. I don't even know about them until then. And so I feel like the development's got to be different. So if I could get that, I think the league will be in much better hands, because the NFL, I'm getting content every day. I'm getting all these other, you know, stars that are ready to roll, like now, even when like they come out of the draft. So hopefully it'll be an interesting, you know, discussion in the end, but hopefully they do make that right. But Mo, appreciate you, dude. You got me fired up for this finals, you know, preview, man. But where can everybody find all your content, and especially getting geared up because things are about to get bigger in Texas?
Yeah, make sure you follow me at Mo_Cheese15 on Twitter, at Up in Flames Pod on Instagram, and make sure you check out Bleav in Mavs anywhere you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. That's BLEAV in Mavs. Yeah, that's about it. Just make sure, because I got a bunch of Mavs content creators lined up all week leading up to the finals. Who knows after each game what that's going to bring as well on Bleav in Mavs. But like this week going to be loaded. I think really starting Sunday. Like it's like everybody enjoy your weekend and get with me on Sunday. But Sunday to Thursday, it's going to be a show every day with a different guest of another Mavs content creator, trying to reach out to a couple Boston Celtics guys to talk to. So this going to be a loaded week. I'm going to be pretty busy. So make sure you check out, tune in, and give me a follow, man. I appreciate you for having me on. I always love being a guest, and I always, you know, I'm going to get you on, whether it's Bleav in Mavs or Up in Flames Pod. I got to get you on. I always love to show love back to people who show love to me. So I do appreciate you, Jake.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you, man. And like I said, busy week, man, and rightfully so, man. And get geared up, get ready for it, because Mavs fans and even just basketball fans up in general, they are not ready for what is about to come by the time tip-off starts up in game one. Appreciate you, Mo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we shall see next week how this will turn out. Take care, man.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely. Man, NBA playoffs